Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hello, and happy Monday. Good morning for those of you who are listening in the morning. Good afternoon to those of you who are listening in the afternoon. It's been pretty outside, and so that's always uplifting to me. I'm looking forward to today. I am upcycling. I have this fire pit that was left by the previous owners of our new house. And so I gutted it. And so now it's just this big concrete shell. And I'm turning it into a water fountain, an outdoor water feature for our patio. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's supposed to be like 73 degrees and sunny today. So that'll be super nice. So I'm feeling very uplifted, which is a nice feeling to have. It's funny. I wake up in the morning, I never feel this way lately. I don't feel, when I wake up in the morning, I feel pretty shitty, to be honest. Like my head hurts more when I first wake up than when I guess the blood starts flowing, I start moving, and that's when it seems to settle a little bit. That seems to be a trend. So when I wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm not doing anything today, I'm just going to lay in bed, I now tell myself, you're going to feel better in an hour. So that's been kind of nice. Anyway, so I'm talking to my future self, right? Well, today I'm going to talk about what I'd say to my past self. And I've been thinking about this question for like a week. And one of the things that came up in my mind was, well, I have all these versions of myself. I talk about them all the time. I have Rachel version 1.0, that was before I got sober. Rachel version 2.0, which is when I got sober, and Rachel version 3.0, which is post stroke. So, who would I be talking to if I was talking to my past self? Well, I think I would be talking to Rachel version 1.0. I would be talking to the one that didn't yet have the experiences to gain any tools for life. So, what would I say to her? How could I tell her what is to come? What have I learned that, and as I was thinking about this, I was like, well, this is no different than really how I talk about that. I like to think of myself as my own mother. So, what would I say to that little girl inside of me? This is the same thing, right? This is the same thing. So, what would I say to the little girl inside of me? But I think people can resonate a little more with or relate a little more to what would I say to my past self. So however you want to look at it, what would I say? And so I've split this into a few parts. One thing is that you did the best that you could with the tools that you had. Um, I didn't know anything about alcoholism. I didn't know that anyone else in the world experienced anxiety and depression like me. I thought I was so unique. And I certainly didn't know any signs of stroke. This is just because I wasn't exposed to all of these things. I wasn't weak. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't know what I know now. So I think it's important to like I think that's where being gentle with ourselves comes in. When I think about like when I was getting sober, I think about like I was doing the best I could with what I knew. Um, I I had in college, I had my sorority told me, didn't tell me, they told each other about me that they thought I was an alcoholic. And back then, I thought they were just calling me names. I've mentioned that before. Um, because I thought alcoholics were like the people that carry a bottle of liquor in a paper bag and they live under a bridge. That's what I thought alcohol, and they're not shaven, they don't take care of themselves, they have no family. That's what I thought alcoholics were. That's what I thought all alcoholics were. Granted, there are alcoholics that live under bridges and aren't shaven and don't have family. Unfortunately, I thought all of them were like that. I thought I don't look like an alcoholic. You know, I'm a college student, but lo and behold, I was an alcoholic. I just didn't know. I wasn't, if somebody instead of saying, um, I think she's an alcoholic, maybe provided me with some education on what an alcoholic is, in reality. Would I have read it? Probably not. Maybe, probably not. All of that is like planting seeds. So I do believe that I did the best that I could with what I had. And that is like what education I had, what experiences I had. I would tell my past self that you are not unique. That is that is such an important lesson that I've learned in sobriety. And one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that I started the podcast was because I know this. I know this now that I'm not unique. And because of that, I thought I have got to do this out loud. I've got to recover out loud because somebody else out there is going to think that they're unique. And that will inhibit them from growing, from healing, from seeking help. So I would tell my past self, you aren't broken, you're human. Um, you're not unique. You are human, and there's a million other humans that suffer from your same condition, your same human condition. I would tell my past self that anxiety and depression is not just a part, it's not a part of your imagination. You don't have to push through it and pretend like nothing's wrong. You're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to. I wouldn't correct her. I would comfort her. I would say you're allowed to rest. And sometimes, gosh, isn't that the answer in a lot of situations in our life that's just like, just stop. Just pause. Just rest. You don't have to push through everything. Just stop and experience. Stop and look inward. Um, I felt like I was hiding what was going on inside of me. So I would try to push through and ignore it instead of like sitting in it because it's uncomfortable. So, what do I need when I'm going through something that that I'm trying to ignore, that I think I'm imagining, that I'm beating myself up and saying that I'm broken? I'm totally uncomfortable. What do I need? I need comfort. I don't need somebody to correct me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I need comfort. So I would provide her with comfort. Um, some things that I have learned that I would tell her is that as much as you try to control the outcome, you don't have control over it. It goes back to last week. I talked about that exercise where just clench your fists for 30 seconds and notice how you change inside, how agitation grows. For me, agitation grows. So I would tell my past self that no matter how hard you squeeze, you're not going to change the future. Pushing harder is not always going to make things better. We learn I think, in society and in education, like during our early years of education, that pushing harder makes things better. Pushing harder, working harder makes things better. But I disagree. In a lot of situations, pushing harder doesn't make things better. Acceptance makes things better. Acceptance provides relief. So, stepping away from trying to control people, places, and things, and instead, once again, stop. Just stop and let go. It doesn't mean that you're giving up. It allows you to breathe. It allows you to look inward and explore and feel, experience. Experiences are not all made up of what happens outside of us. Experiences are what happens within us. And if I don't stop long enough to let that inward experience happen, I'm often making things harder. So, acceptance, the pause, gives me relief. Another thing that I would tell myself is what happiness looks like. So, happiness, I thought, was something that was outside of me, and I just had to find it. I had to find it, and I'm lucky if it happens to me. And I just talked about this recently, I think, as well, that happiness isn't something that happens to me. Happiness is something that I need to participate in, that I need to choose I had my psychiatrist that I talk about so often. She We were talking about happiness and how I'm pretty adamant that I can choose happiness. Well, what she talked to me about is, although we can choose the direction of happiness, choose things that will lead us down a path of happiness, we are complex as human beings, and we can experience happiness while also experiencing a mix of other emotions. I can experience grief, but still have moments of happiness, just for example. So, but the way that I have those moments of happiness is if I make decisions that lead me in that direction. So, happiness is something that I practice, and it starts with small choices. For me, happiness today is going to start with the path of happiness for me today is going to start with me getting dressed. It's getting connected, which is what I've already done. I joined my AA group this morning, and creating, like, making this decision, this idea that I'm going to upcycle this fire pit into a fountain, a water fountain, is creating makes me happy. So, all of these small choices that I'm making today, actually, my small choices started last night because I went to bed about an hour, at least an hour earlier last night, because number one, I wanted to get up for my 7 a.m. AA meeting, which didn't happen. My alarm went off, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna lay here for just 5 minutes. Um, and then Autumn woke me up about 40 minutes later. So I did go to my 8 a.m. meeting instead. But but I did go to bed early, which leads me to being able to be a little more present in the day and hopefully, for me, I say hopefully not take a nap because I really enjoy having a full day, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to rest today, but hopefully I can not sleep because I don't know, it's a beautiful day outside and I'd really rather rest with being awake and rest than to sleep. So I made these small choices starting yesterday to be able, actually, I started before that, sorry, because I ordered all the supplies on Amazon so that I could create my water fountain. So I'm always making little choices to allow me to participate in happiness. So back when I was my past self, thought that happiness was having a boyfriend, having money, having nice clothes. And um, I'm learning today that yes, yes, I'm very blessed. I have a lot of beautiful things in my life, but we can have everything in the world and still not be happy because happiness is an inside job. Sobriety, emotional sobriety is an inside job. And I think emotional sobriety, I mean, I might think a little bit more about this today, and I may retract what I'm about to say, but is emotional sobriety equal to happiness? I would already not agree with that 100%. I think that emotional sobriety can happen while we're still feeling the feelings and having this roller coaster called life. So I guess I will retract that already. So anyway, happiness is certainly something that I need to actively participate in and make choices every day. If I'm feeling grief, if I'm feeling anxiety, if I'm feeling depression, I can still make those small choices that lead me in the direction of happiness. Um, so, what would surprise my past self? A lot of stuff would surprise my past self. One is that I got sober. So this idea of getting sober, like I've talked about it before, where I feel like getting sober was the big thing that was going to happen in my life and the difficulty, and like it was going to be the biggest mountain I would ever have to climb. I was wrong. So, the idea that if I was talking to that high school version of me that was at that high school party where I was hammered and my brother was mad at me because I wasn't going to be able to drive my car home and so on and so forth, um, to tell myself, let's see, it would have been, so that would have been when I was like 18. So I got sober when I was 42. So like 20 years later, that you're going to have to stop drinking for the rest of your life. That would have surprised me and that would have made me very sad, very frustrated. Probably just about as frustrated as it made me when I finally had to do it because I was an alcoholic back then and I was an alcoholic 20 years later. So That would really surprise me in an unfortunate way. However, if I were to tell her, like, when you do get sober, you're going to be the happiest you've ever been in your life. That would surprise me. What would surprise me, of course, is that you're going to have a stroke when you're 46. I mean, oh my gosh. Isn't that, if I would have, if I would have thought back then that I was going to have a stroke, I would have thought I was going to have a stroke when I was like 86, not 46. Because when you think about stuff like that, you think, well, either that's never going to happen to me, or you think um, that it's not going to happen to me when I'm young. You know, I was healthy and I had a career ahead of me. Like I had these plans. And so I would have once again been like, my life is terrible, you know? If I were to tell my past self, like, you're gonna get sober and you're gonna have a stroke, I would be like, what's the point? What's the point in living out my life? But I'm even learning about how to bring that Rachel version 2.0, that happiest version of me, forward into Rachel version 3.0. But one thing that's interesting is that if so after I would tell myself you're going to be sober and you're going to have a stroke, um, I would tell myself that you're going to help others. You're going to help others with their experiences. That would cause me an enormous amount of anxiety that I'm going to help others because I had so much anxiety that I didn't even like to answer the phone. Um, with all of my public speaking anxiety, to say you're going to have a podcast and you're going to help others um, would be absolutely terrifying to me. But here I am. And I would tell myself, you're still going to have joy. And the thing that's going to carry you forward after your stroke is the simple concept that during your stroke, you lost your ability to speak. Um, and you realized after you were in the hospital that and you had to leave your job that you still have your voice and so you need to use it. um how inspiring is that, to tell my past self that this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to realize in your life. I would have thought, like, my past self would have thought that this version of me, this present self, was so brave and strong. And I would have just thought, there's no way that that's going to be me. Um, but here I am, you know, and that's cool. It really is inspiring to think about when I'm talking to my past self how much growth I've undergone and and how that strength comes out through our experiences and not because I'm experiencing it alone, it's because I'm experiencing it with other people. um, the first thing that I thought of when I had to leave my job is I have to connect with other people. I have to find people like me. One of the big things that I did the podcast for is because in 2 years, I couldn't find a single person that had the same symptoms as me with an inability to track movement with my eyes or to track movement, to handle looking at things that move. and moving my eyes. I couldn't find anybody like that. And so that was one of the reasons why I started the podcast also, because I thought if maybe somebody will see the podcast and reach out to me and say, oh, I have that too. And I have reached other people through the podcast, but it was through additional research that I found the Vestibular Disorders Association. Um, Anyway, I really would, my past self would think that my current self is really smart and really brave. And I need to remember that on a daily basis. I need to remember how far I've come and who I used to be. And that version of me is still inside me. That little girl is still inside me. And I think it's important to talk to her every now and then. I certainly, even from thinking about this episode for a week, did not experience this much of an understanding of how much I've grown um, until I actually talked it through on this episode. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that, and I appreciate everybody who shows up and clicks play. If you are so willing, subscribe and also like the episode. That does a lot for me as well to keep going. One final thing I would say to myself, my past self, is that you're going to be okay. You are okay now because I don't think she ever knew that you're okay. I was always waiting to be okay. And life is not going to be what you expected, but you're going to be okay. So think about what you would say to your past self, but don't only think about it, like actually write it down or go in the bathroom and talk it out loud, because I certainly learned a little bit about myself today. Thank you so much for letting me share that with you, and I will talk to you next time.